Okay, now we're going to show you how to start your stove. Now that your stove is installed, one of the first things that you want to do is check the hopper and make sure you don't have any obstructions or any foreign objects in your hopper. You're going to fill the hopper full of fuel. And then what you're going to do is you've got to get your auger full. Your auger right now is located at the bottom of the hopper. It feeds up and then drops it into your fire pot and drops it in right through this drop chute right here into your fire pot. So what you want to do is you want to be able to get that auger full of fuel. So what you'll do is you're going to hold your start button down for 15 seconds. And what that's going to do after you release is it's going to put the stove into what they call prime mode. Now your auger is just running continuously and getting it full of fuel. Once the fuel starts to drop into the fire pot, then you're going to take it out of prime and you're going to hold the start button down for 5 seconds. That's going to take it out of prime. So now that you've got the auger full and you're ready to start burning your stove, you're going to take 2 small handfuls of pellet fuel and drop them into your fire pot. And then you'll take some alcohol gel that you can get at your local stores. Any type of work as long as it's made for pellet stoves. And you're going to take this and keep in mind that when you start this particular stove, since it is biomass, there's no igniter on it. So you're going to actually start it by hand like this every time. Once you've got it up and running, you can make all your fuel feed and BTU changes as the unit's running. So knowing that we don't have an igniter, we're going to use alcohol gel. You're going to spread a good amount of alcohol gel on top of that fuel right there. I always like to put a little bit of extra right on top, kind of layer it a little bit, put a little more alcohol gel on top that way. And then at this point, you'll notice that your exhaust blower will be running. Okay, so if it's not, get the stove powered up and make sure that your exhaust blower is running at this time. So now you're going to light a match, throw a match into your fire pot and light the alcohol gel and then shut your door. Now what you're going to do at this point is you're going to make sure that your hopper lid is closed, your door is nice and tight. Of course you want to make sure your ash lip is on and secured. And you're going to wait for the unit, for the fire pot to actually get a good fire going inside. So you're going to want to make sure that when you're starting your stove at this point, you've got your alcohol gel lit. You want the fire to go ahead and get spread all the way across from one side to the other. Because what we're doing here is we're heating up a heat sensor. That heat sensor, once it's hot, then it's going to allow us to feed fuel right on top of this fuel that we've already got started in the stove. So after about 4 to 5 minutes of letting the fire pot burn, you're going to go ahead and try to start feeding fuel. So what you're going to do now is you're going to hold your start button down for 5 seconds and release it. If the stove is up to temperature, you'll notice that it'll start feeding fuel right on top of what you've got going inside the fire pot. If you don't see it feeding fuel at that point, give it another 30 seconds, let it burn, and what you can do, you can kind of speed that up a little bit by taking your blue and your red arrows and pushing your blue and red arrows down at the same time. That's going to cause your stir rod to start turning. It's going to stir your fuel up a little bit, get that alcohol gel mixed up good and get a good fire going. Now after about 30 seconds, you're going to go ahead and hold your start button down for 5 seconds again and release. And by that point, you should have enough heat in the stove where it'll start feeding fuel right on top of your fire pot. Now what you're going to do is you're going to wait about 8 to 10 minutes. After about the 10-minute mark, once the unit's good and warm, you'll notice that your room air blower will come on. It's going to come on automatically for you. The room air blower on the biomass product, when you're burning corn, is going to be adjusted by the control board. So there's no external control when you're burning corn and in the biomass stove or pellet in the biomass stove. The control board will control how the speed of your room air blower automatically for you. Now, once your room air blower has come on, now all you have to do is wait about 30 minutes, let the unit get up to temperature. The stove is going to actually come up on the medium setting when you first start it like this. Let it burn for about 30 minutes, and then at that point you can start making some adjustments in your fuel feed. And one thing you want to always pay attention to is where you want your combustion air located, your setting located on the side of the stove. What you're looking for is a good straight up flame, nothing lazy. We don't want a lazy flame. We want enough air flowing through the fire pot that's keeping about 3/4 of an inch of fuel burning in the bottom of the fire pot. You don't want that fuel getting built up above your stir rod inside the fire pot. Then you can see that your stir rod comes into about the center of your fire pot. So you want the fuel load in your fire pot to stay below that. If it starts to get above that, then you know you need to push your damper open a little bit, give it a little bit more air. If it tends to want to look like it's going to go out and your flame doesn't want to stay there and stay consistent, then you may want to back the air off just a little bit. And then you'll find the correct setting for the type of fuel that you're using. Now, at some point, of course, you're going to want to shut your stove down. It's very simple. You're going to go back to your start button again, and you're going to hold it in for 5 seconds. And at that point, what's going to happen is you'll notice the lights on your control board are going to run from the top down on your control board, and that's telling you that it's in the shutdown mode. Your auger will shut off. It'll stop feeding fuel. Your blower motors will continue to run until the unit actually cools down to a point where they'll shut themselves off. Now, one feature that we have on the Crossfire, and as well as other units, is that you can do a hot restart. So let's say you get up in the morning and you think it's going to be warmer that day, so you shut the unit off, and then you think to yourself, you know, I'd really like to go ahead and keep it running. So if you still have a fire in your fire pot, you can do what they call a hot restart. You'll walk over to your stove and you'll take the red up arrow and you'll hold it in for 15 seconds and then release it. And that's going to actually take your stove into a hot restart mode. It's going to start to feed fuel again, and as long as you have a fire in it, you can do a hot restart after you've shut it down. Now, one of the options that you do have with the Crossfire is that, let's say that the only thing that you want to burn is pellets. So if you're not wanting to burn corn or any other biomass fuels and you just want to burn pellets in your stove, one thing that we do have is an upgrade kit that you can put on the Crossfire that will allow you to burn straight pellet. One of the main advantages to this, or probably two advantages, one of them is an igniter system. You can put the igniter built into it. Now you can do a startup procedure where once you've gone through the prime mode, you got your hopper full, you got your auger full, and rather than using the alcohol gel and starting it by hand, when you start it with the upgrade kit with an igniter, you're just going to hold your start button in for 5 seconds, release it, your igniter will come on, about 1.5 minutes later it'll start feeding fuel, and then that way you can start the stove with an igniter if you're burning straight pellet. The other feature that you'll be able to get with the upgrade kit is a different auger system, so it'll feed a little bit more fuel. The auger system in the biomass unit is going to feed corn and pellet both, but it won't feed quite as much pellet fuel as it will corn. So your BTUs on the biomass side of the stove, when you don't have the igniter, is going to be a little less BTUs when you're burning straight pellet. So what you want to do, if you want to burn straight pellet, you put the upgrade kit on. It's also going to give you a different auger. And the auger is going to actually feed a little more fuel and give you more heat output when you're burning straight pellet.